So there I was, minding my own business, hand sewing while watching TV with my husband. We were watching Spider Noir, which I only mention because it's relevant. Because this happened. I saw this hat and immediately fell in love. So, I need that hat, right? Of course I need that hat. I do happen to have a thrifted hat. That's the exact right color. Do I have anything in my wardrobe that matches this color? Not yet. Behold, my velvet shelf. I have 2 yards of this. It's a cotton velveteen, so it shouldn't be too terribly awful to sew with. And that's like a perfect match. I love it. I got the hat at a thrift store, like I said, for less than $5. I actually have no memory of where I got this fabric. It's been in my stash a really long time. It looks like I've washed it because it has serged edges. So I should be able to just go ahead and cut something out and make a dress. What can I make with 2 yards? Let's find out. This pattern says 2 3/4 yards. Challenge accepted. Okay, so this is totally doable. I am simply going to add a waist seam to just the back pieces. So at this lengthen or shorten line, I'm going to go, a seam allowance width up from the waist and cut just the skirt portion, and then I will have enough left below to flip the pattern piece and cut another skirt portion. And then, going a seam allowance width below the same line, I will be able to fit the bodice portion down here and also fit this upper left front section in the same area. And then the front is going to be cut as one, as the pattern calls for. So there's just going to be a seam at the back. It's going to look intentional and totally fine. But I'm actually going to stop here for now because I'm already quite warm and I'm going to work on something else, and I will come back to this on another day. You know what else I found though? More fabrics in my stash that can go with this hat. So let's see what we've got. I have this really nice bottom weight cotton sateen with a little bit of a stretch to it. And I've been wanting to make cigarette pants, those 1960s slim fit pants that Audrey Hepburn popularized. I think this fabric would be really cute in a set of pants. And if I have enough, which I think I probably do, I would also like to make just a plain A-line skirt, because then I could wear the blouse I'm going to make from this skirt with said skirt, So this is the Samantha plaid. It's the leftover fabric from when I made my daughter's Samantha dress. I made it into a pleated skirt, but I'm not thrilled with it, and I think it would actually be better as a blouse. I think I have enough to make a blouse, probably short-sleeved, but that would be really, really cute with a skirt and this hat. I also have just a tiny bit of this maroon and like taupe stripe. Maybe I can get a vest out of it. I think it would have to be horizontal stripes because it's not tall enough to get vertical stripes. Anyway, that's a maybe. I also have these two silks, which I'm pretty sure I bought because they were a really good sale at the time, and I had no plans for either of them. But this is certainly enough to make a dress. That could be fun. And this is definitely enough to make a densely gathered skirt that I could then wear over this dress for another look. Possibly over this dress too, whatever I decide to make from this one. So for having nothing to wear this hat with, I suddenly have plans for a whole mini wardrobe that I can wear with it. My projects always beget projects. Okay, I know I said I wasn't going to do any more on this project right now, but I did immediately start on the gathered silk skirt. I had figured out how I wanted to make it, and I just had to start right away. I measured what I had and found that I could cut it perfectly in thirds, and then sew these panels end to end to make one extremely long rectangle. I pulled threads to get the grain line along the two cut edges, then measured, snipped, and ripped to get my panels. And I ended up using one of the vertical maroon stripes for my waistband. 2 days later, I started working on the hat. First order of business was to remove the faux snakeskin band and bow around the crown. It was mostly glued on, but the bow also had a few stitches through it. I tried on the hat to confirm that I was going to be able to do what I wanted to do, and determined that I did in fact have enough material in this hat. It was just going to be a matter of removing some and shaping it. This hat had a wired brim, which I decided to remove and reuse in the final hat. I pressed the edge to remove the crease from the wire channel, spraying it with water to give it some steam. My iron unfortunately leaks, so I can't add water to the chamber it's supposed to use for steam, but the spray works well enough. I then cut a new shape into the brim, leaving all of the width at the front, and saving a large piece that I cut from the back for the bow embellishment that would go on the front of the crown. Next, I measured the wire against the new brim shape and cut it to the length that would match that circumference, with a little overlap. I had not yet figured out how I would join the two ends together, so in the meantime, I clipped the wire to the edge of the brim to keep it in place while I worked that out. And I trimmed and shaped the piece I had cut from the brim into a bow-like shape, wrapping it with a narrow strip of remaining wool. I don't know what is giving me the audacity right now, but I am ready to cut out this dress. And yes, it is after 11 p.m., and I know we don't sew sleeves after midnight, but you know what this dress doesn't have? Sleeves. So, I'll be fine. I did go ahead and wash the fabric. I was going to try to press it, like putting it upside down over a towel so I didn't destroy the pile, but that was going to use a lot of steam, and I realized that this is cotton velveteen. It's a washable fabric, and since I had already overlocked it and probably already washed it once before, I figured the easiest way to get all of the wrinkles out would be to wash and dry it. I did take it out of the dryer about 10 minutes before the cycle was up, so it still had a lot of heat and a little bit of moisture in it, and I draped it across my couch to let it dry overnight, and that worked beautifully. It is unwrinkled. It looks gorgeous. I suppose I could show it to you. Look at that. Oh, so lovely. So my fabric is ready to be cut. I also ironed the pattern pieces, because I always do that, and I went ahead and traced off the bodice back and skirt back from the one long back piece, because I am going to be piecing it at the waist, and I have the seam allowances included on those pieces, so there should be no issues. I didn't want to leave that part of it to chance. I didn't want to have to try to remember where my cutting line was on the tissue pattern, because of course I wasn't going to cut the actual pattern piece in half. I want to use this pattern again. In fact, if you saw my sewing plans video from about a month ago, you will probably know that I was already planning on making this dress pattern from a pink fabric, and I guess now I'm making a velvet one. It would be really smart to make the pink one first, because I have more than enough of that fabric, and with this one I have not even enough. Oh. But like I said, I'm going to make it work by putting a waist seam in the back pieces. I am also going to use a different fabric for the facings, probably the fabric that I want to make those pants from, because it's a good color match and it should be a pretty sturdy fabric, and it's what I have available, which makes me really want to also make the pants and the skirt right now, because it would make sense to cut out the largest pieces first and then fit the smaller ones, which the facings are small, onto the remaining fabric. Cut them all out at the same time, so I am sure that I have enough, because I don't want to cut the facings and then realize that I don't have enough left over to make the pants and the skirt. That would be sad. But that means more delay, and I really want to make this now. I also super want to make the Samantha blouse now. I have decided the pattern I'm going to use, and I really want to make it. Okay, that can't be in this video. That can't be in this video. There's too much already in this video. Okay, I should probably cut it out before it gets any later, and I am getting a little loopy. Here we go. Okay, I think it's time to return to this project. I have been working on it little bits at a time, here and there, some of which I've filmed, mostly working on the hat, so you've probably already seen that. And I also cut out the facings, although I'm realizing I missed one. I cut this one, which is the front facing, and I cut this one twice mirror image, and I've cut interfacing for all three, and I realized while I was driving that I need the other side of the front, which is over here, because I only have the velvet piece. It only says cut one. Okay, must be a different pattern piece. Stand by. I'm so organized. Here's the thing. I might have mentioned previously that I wanted to cut out all of the garments I wanted to make from this stretch sateen fabric at the same time, so I would know I had enough. I didn't do that because the pattern that I have for the pants I want to make is not my size, so I will need to either buy a new pattern or grade it up to my size, which will require making a mock-up, which I should do regardless, but I don't have time for that before I really want to finish this dress. I did still try to cut the facings as conservatively as possible, but I still want to save as much of that fabric as I possibly can, so I might piece this facing from some of the scraps that I have. I think I can do it. Okay, I pieced it in a very silly way, but you know what? It's on grain, and I didn't have to get the fabric back off the shelf that I'd already folded and put away. And I used up some scraps, so winning all around. It's a facing. You can piece facings and no one will ever see them. I do it all the time. Did I perhaps piece this facing solely as a way to procrastinate actually starting on the dress? Why would you think such a thing? Is it because the first step is darts and I hate sewing darts? Also, it's velvet and I'm nervous. Technically it's velveteen, but still. Also, I have discovered a problem with making this dress, and that is I don't have a zipper that matches. My go-to is to use an invisible zipper if I have to do a zipper, and I have a black one. Actually, I have several black ones. The only possible potential color that would not clash horribly is black. I also have a maroon zipper, which matches almost perfectly, but it's only 7 inches long, which is not long enough. And of course, I can't just pop over to Joann's anymore and get myself a zipper when I need one. I'm extra frustrated right now because I hate sewing zippers and I don't want to under normal circumstances, but this dress is going to kind of require one. Like, I could probably do a hook and eye placket closure, but because it's velveteen and because it's a very fitted dress, I don't want to do that. I really think the zipper is the proper way to go here. R.I.P. Joann's. I was nearby a Michael's today on an unrelated errand, and I did swing by, and I checked their very, very sad fabric section, and even sadder zipper selection. It was rough. Also, on the door, they had a printed out sign taped on the door that said open Independence Day 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and I'm like, why? Why are you open on Independence Day? We don't need Michael's to be open on Independence Day, right? Like, who's having a crafting emergency on the 4th of July? What? Like, I could see a grocery store being open those hours on the 4th, sure. People ran out of hot dog buns or forgot to get napkins or whatever, but Michael's? Come on, give your employees the day off. Heck, give them Friday off. They deserve it. Anyway, I'm gonna rant. I'm not gonna rant. I'm gonna go inside and watch TV with my husband because I haven't seen him in days. And I'll be back out here tomorrow, I hope, to work on this more. I'm probably gonna go with the black invisible zipper, and I'm gonna sew it in by hand because I'm very bad at doing zippers, which is part of why I hate doing them. Sewing them by hand is the best way to maintain control and make sure that everything's lined up properly. I have a seam at the waist, at the center back, so it needs to line up properly. So I'm going to sew it by hand. Tomorrow. Maybe. I'll do some of this tomorrow. Probably not. Probably won't get to the zipper tomorrow, but gonna work on it. Okay, I need to go sit down. What did I do the next day? Work more on the hat, of course. When I wasn't working on the hat, I was thinking about working on the hat, so by now I had a plan. I turned and pressed the brim edge to create a channel for the wire to nest into, and I used a very thin wire to wrap the two ends of the wire together to keep them locked in place. Now I could tuck the wire neatly into the fold, which would hold it in place enough for a try-on. Next, I decided it was finally time to stitch the bow embellishment together so I could take out the pin that was holding everything in place. And I also stitched the little tuck in the front of the brim to hold it permanently in place. Then I tried on the hat with the bow pinned on to see how it looked on me. It was giving pirate, so I went back to the drawing board. I was glad I had not yet stitched the wire in place, as this would have become more difficult. I drew a new line for the brim, making it a bit more narrow in the front and a lot more narrow at the sides and in the back. Then I had to take the wire back apart and cut it smaller once again. I repeated all the same steps off camera for creating the channel and reattaching the wire ends, then took it to my machine with much trepidation. This was the most nerve-wracking part for me. I needed to sew the channel closed with the wire inside, keep the stitches nice and even, because they were going to show, and keep the needle from hitting the wire and breaking. But I did it! On the first try! Final step, I needed to cover the leftover glue around the crown and the stitching that holds the sweatband in place on the inside. Luckily, I already had some maroon velvet ribbon in my stash, which was perfect. I keep procrastinating working on the dress by working on the hat instead, which, like, the hat is the actual point of the video and the dress is just something to wear with the hat. But the dress is so intimidating to me. I feel like when I got the idea, I kind of barreled full steam ahead, and then I had to stop because I had a deadline for another video, and it sat on my table for a week, and I just tried to work around it so I didn't wrinkle the poor thing. But now I really need to actually do it so I can finish this video. I think I'm where I need to be with the hat now. It's all hand sewing left, so I really need to focus on the dress. So the main thing that is intimidating me is the fabric. It's cotton velveteen, which is not as horrible to work with as like a silk velvet or even a synthetic velvet. But it is a plush fabric, and those are scary. And I feel like I have no room for mistakes because obviously I have none of this fabric left if I mess it up. So that's part of it. The other thing that's stopping me at this particular moment is that the next step is marking all of the darts and then sewing all of the darts. And you know how I feel about darts. I love the way they look, but boy do I hate marking and sewing them. I am going to take all of the fabric off of the pattern pieces and serge around all of the raw edges before I sew anything together. But that does mean I need to mark the darts before I take the pattern pieces off. Okay, enough procrastinating. Let's go. I do want to share with you real quick a tip for nicely finishing the edges of a facing. I've only seen this on one pattern ever, and I don't know why it's not on every pattern, because I think it's so brilliant. So instead of doing what this pattern says, which is to baste the edges together and then trim away the interfacing and finish the bottom edge, I actually finished the bottom edge first by putting the facing and interfacing right sides together and stitching a 1/4 inch along the bottom. Then I trim away the excess with pinking shears, and I press it and I turn it and press it really well to get that lovely finished curve edge without any extra bulk. It is so clean and so easy. I don't know why every pattern doesn't have this. As you can see, I did 1 step on each so that I could show you. It's like a cooking show. The only one I didn't treat that way is the front left facing. Yes, because that one doesn't have a finished lower edge. It gets sandwiched in between the front and the front right facing, and then folds out after you turn that right side out. So this one doesn't need to have that done, and I just basted it all around like the pattern said to. Okay, that's really enough procrastinating now. Let's go mark some darts. Okay, all my pieces are nicely serged now, so they won't be shedding fuzz on me while I'm working on this. And they will be all nicely finished on the inside of the garment, so I don't have to worry about that later. I think now I am going to do the back darts, but I'm not going to do the front ones yet because I want to be able to try on the dress and make sure that the darts are fitting me correctly on the front of the dress. I think on the back it will be fine. Most of the time back darts do fit me as printed on the pattern, but I do find that I have to adjust the front darts very frequently. And on this fabric I'm afraid of stitching a dart line and having to take it out and it leaving stitched lines on the pile of the velvet. So I don't want to risk having any marring of the fabric in any way. So I think this is going to be the best way forward. But I do need to put the darts in the back before I put the top and bottom back pieces together, because you'll recall I added a waist seam. So yeah, I'm going to start with those darts, put the back pieces together, then add the facings, because that needs to be done before I stitch the whole garment together. And aside from this being a velveteen fabric, the construction is going to be pretty straightforward. I don't know how much of this I'm going to film. This video is really about the hat, so the dress is a little bit secondary. Also, I do plan to make this dress again at least once more, probably twice. So if people really want to see the construction of the dress, I can make another video later in a different fabric, where I will be a lot less nervous. Anyway, wish me luck. Here I go. Okay, progress is being made. I have 2 backs. These darts were a pain, if you can believe it. Trying to get them matched up exactly at the waist seam. I didn't do a perfect job. This one is pretty close. It's good enough. This one I had to redo because it was way off, and now it's almost perfect. I'm very happy with that. And I was fortunately able to fix the misalignment because the darts on the bodice part were farther apart than the ones on the skirt, so I had to move one of these, I think it was this one, and I didn't want to have the scarring of taking out the stitching like I talked about before, but fortunately I was able to just make the dart a little bit bigger, so encasing the original stitching line within the new dart, and it was fine. It's gonna be fine. But yeah, darts are a pain. They just are. This went much smoother, so I've got the facings for both front sections now, and they're joined together, so this piece is sandwiched in between the velveteen and the facing, and it's gonna work. Oh, it's gonna be cute! I can't wait. As I mentioned, I will be sewing the zipper by hand, so I have pinned it in, and I marked where the seam at the waist would go with a bit of tailor's chalk on the zipper while it was closed, so that I would have the marks lining up perfectly on both sides. And then obviously I pinned it open, and I'm going to hand sew it in. It's an invisible zipper, so it only needs to be sewn one time, and it's very simple and easy to do. It's just going to take a while. It's tedious, and that's okay, because I can watch TV while I do that. So the hat is done, and I love it. It's not an exact recreation, but it came out exactly how I wanted it to, and I'm super pleased. Okay, let's finish the dress. I did sew in the zipper last night. Like I said, I sewed it in by hand, and I'm pretty happy with the seam matching. It was tedious, but I do think it would have been even worse to do it on the machine, because I know I would have had to redo it several times. That's just the nature of zippers for me, but also it's the nature of any kind of plush fabric. It likes to creep, and in fact, if you look on the inside here, I don't know if you can tell, my zipper did creep even as I was hand stitching it. So on this side, the seam allowance is much bigger than on this side, but I'm just gonna be fine with it because it's done and I'm not gonna redo it. I had originally thought I might replace the black zipper eventually with a maroon or burgundy invisible zipper, but that was so much work, I do not want to do it ever again. Okay, so now all I need to do is attach the front to the back at the shoulders and sides, and then hem it, and like tack down the facings maybe, and then it's done! I tried the dress on inside out, covering the neck and arm openings so I didn't get makeup or deodorant on them, so that I could assess the position of the front darts. They seemed to be in the right place, both for the bust and the waist, so I went ahead and stitched them as marked. Then I tried it back on so I could take in the side seams. My goodness, this pattern has a lot of ease. I could have gone down a full size, maybe 2. But too big is better than too small, that's for sure. So, good news, it's too big, which means I can take it in, and there's lots of room to do so. Also good news, the front darts seem to be just perfectly placed, and I don't have to move them or mess with them at all, which actually is frankly amazing. Annoying news, I can't get out of this by myself because the zipper is on the inside because I'm wearing it inside out. So now I'm gonna run in the house and have my husband help me out. But then I can finish it. Yay. And actually, I will be back with the reveal, so enjoy. Okay, I absolutely adore this hat and this dress. Now, it's not perfect, the dress I mean. The hat very nearly is, and I have no complaints. I mean, just look at it. It's exactly what I wanted it to be. Like I said, the dress is not perfect, but I'm going with it. It is supposed to be symmetrical in the front. This V is supposed to be in the center, and instead it's asymmetrical. And I decided to lean into that and put the bow just on one shoulder. I didn't actually have enough fabric to do the fabric bows like the pattern has, but I had a large enough scrap to get one bow. So I thought I'll just do it on one shoulder, and then it will look more intentionally asymmetrical. That's the idea anyway. I really like it. It is, I want to say, surprisingly comfortable. I don't know why that's surprising. Maybe it's just the fact that it's a tight-fitting dress, but it's not tight on me. Like, it's fitted, but it's not squeezing me in or anything. And I can zip it up myself. That's one of the benefits of this lower back. It's not all the way up to, you know, the nape of my neck. I would not be able to get a dress like that zipped by myself, but this one I can. Oh, I also went ahead and made the bow removable, so I can wear it without, or I could switch it to the other shoulder if I wanted, or maybe I could put it on a belt right around my waist. I don't know. It has potential. Also, as you saw, I did make the taffeta overskirt, which makes me so happy. It has so much drama. And the cool thing about this skirt is that it can double as a cape. And then I just button it under my arms behind my back. And then it's a cape. How fun is that? So this project was a lot of fun. I'm really glad I went with my whim and just made the thing that I really wanted to have, because I think it turned out fantastic. And all in all, I guess I'm really glad I watched Spider Noir. Not just because I got a cool hat out of it, I also really enjoyed the show. This is not sponsored in any way, but if you enjoy the noir aesthetic, I think you would also enjoy the show. It was a lot of fun. Or if you just really want to see some beautiful costumes. We did watch the first 3 episodes in black and white, and then the next 2 in color. Then we went back to black and white and then back to color. It was a whole thing. There was like a guide online for how to best watch Spider Noir. I think it's really good in both black and white and color. So I'm glad we did it the way we did. And I'm glad I saw this hat in color because it deserves it. So yeah, I had a great time. I hope you enjoyed too. If you did enjoy this video, feel free to give me a like. And if you want to see more, definitely subscribe. And tune in next week to see what whim I'm following next. It'll probably be something a little less crazy. Probably something that I have more call to wear in my everyday life. I don't know when I'm going to wear this dress, but I have to find a reason because I really love it. It does not have pockets. I thought about putting pockets in, but it's too tight for side seam pockets to be practical because you'd just be able to see anything I put in those pockets. And I also thought about decorative patch pockets, and actually I cut out a couple with this cute tulip shape using a pattern piece from a different pattern. This one, I'll put it on the screen, because I thought it might be cute to have those pockets on this dress. I changed my mind though. I think the dress is better without them, but because I have 2 of them, I'm gonna make them into a cute little purse. Didn't finish it for this video, but that's okay. I'll finish it for whenever I decide I'm going to wear this. Still no idea. Put your ideas in the comments. Just don't tell me to wear it to the grocery store because I will not. Anyway, I'll see you all next time. Bye! You can't really see me, can you? I'm really washed out today. Oh no, that's not what I want.
Oh, okay.